Awesome. Well, let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about scheduling in Dubsado. And my attempt with this webinar is to go through everything that you need to know about scheduling, all of the different tips and tricks, things that you should be aware of, methods on how to use the scheduler properly. And then at the end, we're even going to go over if the scheduler is right for your business right now or not, because there are needs that people have with scheduling that Dubsado might not have yet in the system, but we'll cover that as we go through the webinar. So first thing, just to introduce what scheduling is in Dubsado, a lot of people say, is it your calendar? Is it for availability? What exactly is the scheduling feature in Dubsado? And the Dubsado scheduler allows you to set your availability for a particular type of appointment, like a consultation call, a coffee chat, basically setting up your availability to send out to a client so they can book with you. And Dubsado takes this availability that you create and it cross-checks it with any conflicts from an external calendar, things that are going on inside of Dubsado, and basically shows those available appointment slots to your client so someone can book with you. So that is one question we get a lot is, does the Dubsado scheduler read my Google Calendar or iCal? It does. So anything that you're bringing into Dubsado through the calendar with an external calendar, Dubsado reads those appointments. So if you have, let's say, a dentist appointment tomorrow at 9 a.m., Dubsado will block that out. And so a client wouldn't be able to book an appointment with you at that time. So it does work with an external calendar. So now let's just get into actual just basics and actually building a scheduler template. This is something that a lot of people have questions about. There's a lot of things that you have to pay attention to when building a scheduler template. And so we'll cover the basics here. So the first thing that you should know when building a scheduler template in Dubsado is you're going to create a new scheduler template for each appointment type that you offer. So for some people, here's a really easy one. If you are a coach, let's say, and you do a discovery call with them, and then you actually have paid sessions that you do, those are two different appointment types. And so in Dubsado, you would create different scheduler templates for the different appointment types that you have. And one thing we did when we built our scheduler is that we use Calendly as the model for how we do our scheduling. So if you're familiar with Calendly, there's a lot of the same similarities and commonalities between the two things, or between the two platforms. So if you're familiar with Calendly, a scheduler template would be the equivalent to an event type. So I know in Acuity, it's actually called an appointment type, so that reference is the same. But for those of you in Calendly who are using that, it's the same thing as what an event type is. So all the different event types that you have, you would create all of those as separate templates in Dubsado. So let's go into Dubsado here, and we're actually going to build a template live so we can talk about all the different ins and outs of building one. So in my account here, you can see I have a lot of different templates already in here, different appointment types that I offer. So if I run a photography workshop or a typography workshop, mini sessions, consultation calls, all of these different things are different appointment types, and you want to create all of these separately. Now, how it works in the system is all of these different templates read off of one calendar. So you can have different availability for different appointment types, different appointment durations. You can have different parameters on different scheduler templates, but it all reads off the same general calendar. So what we'll do here is I'll click Add Template, and I'm going to call this one Coffee Chat. So pretty straightforward. I want to send out my availability for someone to book a coffee chat with me. The appointment duration, the 15, 30, and 60-minute is the default, but you can always choose a custom time, but we'll just say 30 minutes here. Now, on the outline, this is one thing that I do want to cover because this is a question that a lot of people have, especially talking with people on calls, is the when can this appointment be scheduled slot. This tells the client how far in advance they can see into your schedule or into your calendar. So if we go back here, when it says, when can this appointment be scheduled, There's three different options. There's indefinitely, which means that they can see all the way into the year 2023 on your calendar. So that works pretty well if you're thinking about, booking something way out in the future. Some people don't necessarily like that, but that's what it's designed for. A fixed date range, what this one will do is give you a certain date range that's only available on this calendar. This works really well for like holiday sales that you're doing, mini sessions, group classes that are for a certain time, that you're doing like a special class. So fixed date range, you can set the time frame on when this scheduler will work. So Black Friday sales, different things like that. And then rolling day window, this is going to be the most common one that's used. Rolling day window, basically, like we said, will show how far in advance a client can see in your availability. So for example, if you wanted to have the next 2 weeks always available, then you would do 14 days. So that means that whenever someone opens up this scheduler, they can see 14 days in the future, but nothing further. So 14 days, or you could do a 30-day rolling window where they can see the next month of availability. But this is an important piece here because you want to decide how far in advance that client can see in your schedule. So that's how you'll set up that top portion there. Now, actually scheduling your availability, we have a lot of questions on this too. So I'm going to kind of switch up the availability from the default here. So when you open it up, you'll see that it's 9 to 5 is going to be the default that opens up. If we click in here, what you can do is you can either delete that availability, so we can remove that time slot off of there, and then you can set your own time frame. So let's say I want to be available from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m., so from 8 to noon, and we can click add times. And then let's say I do an afternoon block as well. So let's say that I want to be available from 2 p.m. until 7 p.m. And let's say that that's kind of my second block that I do, and you can add that time frame in there. So you're going to build your availability here, and then what you'll do is you'll decide if you want to do this only for April 13th, just this day I'm working on, or if I want to set this for all of my Mondays. So all of my Mondays function around this format where I'm available from 8 to noon and 2 to 7. So if I click all Mondays, that's going to make all my Mondays moving forward that same time block or that same format. So what you'll do is you'll go through, and each day of the week, you'll set what your availability is, and you can decide if you want that to be for all the remaining days on your schedule, or if you want it for just a specific day. So that's how you'll build your availability around the system. The next thing, and this is a big one too as well, is once booked, show me as. In the system, whenever someone books an appointment with you, this is going to determine if that appointment slot is locked and no one else can book on there, or if that slot is still available and more people can book on that slot. So in the outline, 99% of the time you will select busy. Busy means that once a client books a time slot, that time slot is no longer available. So if you have a consultation call with somebody and someone books at 9:30, you don't want to keep that open for someone else to book the same slot. So you'll keep that as busy 99% of the time. Available works really well for like group sessions or classes where that time slot, you can have multiple people book the same time slot. So if you're running a coaching class where you have 5 or 6 people, you can leave that to available so that 9 o'clock slot can have 6 people book on there. So that's what you want to use available for. So make sure you choose busy. It's automatically set to busy, but that's what that is designed for in that portion. The location section is next. I put a tip in here for the location because a lot of people have questions on if we integrate with Zoom. We are actually working on that right now, but it's not official that we have an integration with Zoom. So what you can do in the meantime is you can actually take your Zoom link. So if you have just a static link that you use for every client, so you have just a general Zoom link, or if you're using any other like a Skype, or if you're using any other type of meeting room, you can put that in the location, because in appointment reminders, in confirmation emails, you can have that location autofill on appointment reminders, on confirmation emails, and all of that good stuff, which we're going to get into next. So location is really great if you want to put in where you're actually going to be meeting, or if you have some type of a meeting room online, especially with what we're doing right now where everything has to be online. You can just plug in whatever your link to your meeting room is, and then that will be available for everybody. So that's the location section. And then we'll talk about this email. Now, the email here, this is something that a lot of people have questions on as well too. And what is this email, and what is this designed to do? That email there down at the bottom of this modal is what's called the invitation email. This is the email that you would use to invite your client to book an appointment with you. So if we go back to this email here, and even in just the basic text, you can read what it says. Hey, client name, I'd like to schedule an appointment with you. Let me know when is best for you. And then it has the link to this template in there. So this is going to be if you are planning on sending this out to a client inside of Dubsado. So if you are planning on using this for a workflow, or if you're just inside of a project and sending this scheduler to somebody, this is the default email that will be used to send this out to a client. You can always select a different canned email if you want to go in this slot here, but this is what's called the invitation email. So the most important thing to know is this is what is going to invite somebody to book a call with you. And we'll talk about confirmation and appointment reminders in a second here. But this email, like I said, will only be used if you're planning on emailing this template to your client inside of Dubsado. And we'll talk about how to do it outside of Dubsado and all that good stuff in a little bit. But the other thing that's important too here is that a scheduler link has to be on the email that's going out to the client. So in this email here, if we go back to scheduler here, in this email, you can see I have a scheduler link in there. That's going to give the client a button to click on so that they can access this scheduler. So this is going to create that button. If you're familiar with sending, that's what's going to create that. So you'll need to have that somewhere in the body of the email there. So, oops, I just accidentally closed out of that. Let me put back in my parameters here again. My apologies. I got too excited. And then we'll do this here, and then we'll go to the advanced tab next. So those are the important things to know about the basic tab. Now we're going to move over into the advanced tab on setting up a scheduler template. So in the advanced section here, the first thing I'm going to talk about, I won't go through all of these because some of these are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go through some of the most important things in here. The first thing is the prevention we're going to talk about. And the prevention works like a cutoff where your client can't book within a certain amount of time. So what that means is if you want to have at least one day, let's say, to prepare for a booking. So when someone books, you want at least a day to be able to prepare for that. You don't want someone to be able to book you, an hour out and you're not prepared and ready for it. You would set that to at least 24 hours. So that means that if I booked an appointment or I wanted to book with you right now, I could only book a time slot from 10 a.m. West Coast time tomorrow. So at least gives you a 24-hour buffer. So that's an important piece there if you want to make sure that people aren't booking with you too soon. The next thing I'm going to talk about is actually down here underneath appointment details. And it is allow this scheduler to be used a certain amount of times. If you leave that blank, that means that this template can be used as many times as you want to. There's no cap on there. But this is designed to put a cap on how many times this particular template can be used. So what this is good for is for something like a coaching package. So if you offer, let's say, 10 sessions on a certain template, you can take that template, put it in their client portal, let's say, and then once it's a part of that project and it's in their portal, that client can only book on that template 10 times, and then it doesn't work anymore. So this is great anytime you don't want that template to be used more than a certain amount of times. If you're doing, let's say, mini sessions, and you know in the back of your head, I only want to be able to take 20 people to do these mini sessions, you can put a cap on there so you know you won't be booking 30, 40 people and then be swamped. One-time event group classes, things like that, where you want it to be once 10 people are in this class, I want it to lock out. You could do it that way. So in that situation, you would probably set it to available. And so that way more than one person can book a time slot, but just put a cap on it for 10 times this can be used, and then it's not good anymore. So you can do something like that too as well. So that's the maximum usage. So that's going to be right here where it says allow this scheduler to be used a certain amount of times. A lot of people have questions on that. The next thing we'll talk about is the confirmation email. This is really important here, and it gets overlooked quite often. So here you can see that right now there's not a confirmation message, or rather a custom confirmation message that's in this particular template. But if I click on this, I can add in any of my canned emails to be my confirmation email that goes out to the client. So how it works in Dubsado is that if this is left blank, so you don't put one in there, Dubsado will send out an automatic email reminder, and that can be located under templates, canned emails, edit templates, which are your default templates, and appointment confirmed. So I'll show you where that's at. If you were to leave this blank here and you don't put anything in this slot, where this will send the confirmation email out, because there's a default one that will send out if nothing's in there. If you go to templates and then canned emails and then edit templates, these are the default emails that come with the account whenever you're performing one of these actions. Those default ones that pop up, that's what all of these are. So appointment confirmed here, this is the email that's just going to go out to the client if you decide you don't want to put anything in there. So you can edit this one if you want to, and then that will go out and you don't have to add anything in there. Or you could just create your own custom one and add that in that slot too. So either way, that's how the confirmation email works within the system. But this is something that can't be shut off. A confirmation email has to go out to the client, but you can decide what is said in that confirmation email, if it is, the default that comes out there, or if it is if it's a custom one that you add to the scheduler template. So in doing that, because you're attaching confirmation emails to the scheduler template itself, you will not need to add any confirmation emails to a workflow because it's built into the scheduler template. So that's one thing that I do see a lot with working with people, is that they'll put their confirmation emails inside of a workflow, but because it's part of the scheduler template, because they're booking on that confirmation email is actually built into the scheduler template. So that's an important piece there for anyone who is working on workflows. In the scheduler here too, we'll go back to the advanced tab here. The next thing is the additional form. Now, what this allows you to do is to add in an additional form to go with the scheduler template. So they would fill out their availability first and pick a time, and then be taken to whatever form you put here. The only forms that work in this section are questionnaires, proposals, and lead capture forms. So nothing that can be signed can be in there. That's something that our dev team is working on. But you can put in a questionnaire, a proposal, or a lead capture form. We'll talk more about this a little bit later when it comes to methods of sending out your scheduler or your availability. But in this section, one thing to pay attention to is that in order for you to put this form into a scheduler template and for them to book their availability, the client has to fill out whatever form is here before they can lock in that appointment. So if you put a form in here, just know that form needs to be filled out completely in order for them to lock in their appointment. So that's what the additional form is, and we'll come back to that a little bit later to talk about just some parameters that you'll want to use in guidelines for sending. The redirect URL, this allows you that once they get through, let's say they book an appointment with you, they fill out a lead form so they're in the system. Once someone fills that out, you can have them go to a separate website. You can redirect them to another URL. One thing to pay attention to, and I have it written in the outline, is that this should only be used for a non-Dubsado URL. So you shouldn't put a URL to another form in that slot. You shouldn't be putting a link to something else from Dubsado in that slot. This should only be for if you want to take them to like a thank you page on your website, or maybe you have a free downloadable on your website. You would want to put that URL in there, and that would take them to an external website there, or maybe to your Instagram account or something like that. That's what that is specifically designed for the redirect URL. The notification emails. So one thing I will mention just really briefly, it's pretty straightforward, but I'll just mention it. You can have people pay a certain amount of money in order to book that appointment. So if you have, let's say, like a consultation fee, you can put that in there. If you have notification emails, let's say, that's going to be what is the appointment reminder. So in this section here underneath the notification section, this is where all of your appointment reminders are going to go into the system. So again, you don't have to build appointment reminders into your workflow. You can have them here in this section, and once someone books on this scheduler, they're going to go out with that scheduler. So no need to put those in a workflow. The confirmation emails and the appointment reminders are all built into the scheduler template themselves. So those are some really important things when actually building your scheduler. When you're going through each appointment type, just think about how those parameters need to be affected for that particular template. One thing I will say is that, let's say you have a certain form that you want to go with a template, but in a different case scenario, you need a different template to go with it. You would build a separate scheduler template. You would build a brand new template. You could duplicate it using the boxes there, and then substitute a new form into that particular template. So different things, if you have a different location, different things like that, it would necessitate a new scheduler template to be created. So kind of pay attention to what's attached to your scheduler templates, what the parameters are. That'll help you out a lot there. So awesome. So that's how you build an actual scheduler template. Now we're going to briefly talk about scheduler groups. There's not too much to them. It's just about the way that they're packaged. So if you look at the scheduler groups here, we'll kind of talk through this. Scheduler groups are designed to combine similar appointment types to be sent in a packaged format. So what these scheduler groups are designed for, it works really well if you have, let's say, if you're doing a consultation with someone and you have 3 different locations that they could choose from to meet up at, then you could use 3 different scheduler templates, package them as a scheduler group, and then that would go out to the client there. Or let's say you have 2 different types of consultation calls. Maybe you have a video chat that you do, but you also have a coffee chat that you do, and you want the client to decide what works best for them. You can do that there. So that's the scheduler groups. And if we go into the scheduler templates here, I'll kind of walk through a scheduler group. What you'll do here, and I have one built so we can talk through that. What you'll do is you're actually going to, if we click add group, let's say, you're going to go in here and put in what your scheduler group name is going to be. And then you can choose from all of your different scheduler templates which one which ones rather you want to go into that group. So if you have a consultation call here and also a coffee chat, you can put both of those in there. Again, this is going to be the invitation email that is saying, hey, here are these different templates. You can choose which one you want to book there. So it's still the invitation email. But beyond that, it's all the same. All the parameters are going to be the same when they actually open up the scheduler template they're interested in. So it's just a way to package scheduler templates together. That's really all that it's designed for there. So awesome. That's how scheduler groups work. And then you can use those the same that you would a regular scheduler template. Like I said, it's just packaged differently. So the next thing we're going to move on to now is what's called methods for process. And what I want to do here is to go over how specifically you should be sending out your scheduler templates to your clients. And I just want to make sure here that we're still online. I know we've been going for just a little bit here, but I want to take a brief pause just to make sure we're all running smoothly here, which it looks like everything is. Perfect. So let's jump back in here and talk about methods for process. So this, what I'm going to do here is talk about different things that people need for scheduling and tell you how you should be thinking about using the scheduler. So I'm going to speak to different things that people need for scheduling or how they're using their scheduler and tell you the benefits from doing those different ways or figure out a way that works best for you. So let's talk about how to use the scheduler outside of Dubsado. So this means that you're embedding your scheduler on your website. You're sending a direct link to your scheduler to a certain client. This is if you're planning on sending it outside of Dubsado. So this will most likely be used for any client that's not in Dubsado yet. So the methods that I'm showing you here that we're going to talk about here, this is best for if someone is not in Dubsado yet. They're not in the system. So lead inquiries, any consultations, discovery calls, different things like that. This will be used by anybody that's needing their availability to be on their website. So for you guys who are watching now, if that's you and this is someone who says, I need them to be able to see my availability on my website first and book straight from there, we're going to talk about how to do that appropriately now. So if you are planning on doing it that way, there's a couple things that you'll need to make sure you have. If you're embedding a Dubsado scheduler or if you're sending it out to somebody that's not in the system yet, you need to have a form attached to that scheduler that can create a project in Dubsado. Everything runs through a project in Dubsado. If you're not familiar with that, that's how the system works, is that a project is like a client's folder, and you want to have a folder get created when someone books an appointment with you. So what you'll need to do there is either add a lead capture form to that template or a public proposal. So let's look at that here really quickly. If I go to my coffee chat here, and I'm going to go to the advanced tab and I'll go down to the additional form section here. And then I'm going to put in a lead capture form. You'll need to have a lead capture form there. And I'll just put in, let's say, this lead capture form, and I will save it. So the reason you want to do that, and I'm going to open up the ways that you can share this with somebody, and this is what you're going to use if you want to embed the scheduler on your website, or if you want to just send out a link to somebody so they can book with you. What you'll need to have is a lead capture form or a public proposal attached to this particular form. The reason why, and I'm just going to open this up in my browser here. The reason why you want to do that is because in this section here, a client is going to pick the availability. So let's say, next Thursday at 9 a.m., I want to book an appointment, and I'll click submit and next. The reason you want to add that form in there is because this here is going to be how the project gets created in Dubsado. If you don't have this in here, then you're only going to see that appointment on your calendar, and there's not going to be a project. You won't be able to start workflows. The emails that you're sending out, all of that won't be a part of this particular client. So you want to have a lead capture form attached to this scheduler. So that way, once they book their availability, because that's embedded on the website, they'll automatically be taken to the form here. They can fill out whatever this lead form is, and then that will create the project. And if you have a workflow that's attached to this lead capture form, that will also begin inside of their project there. So that's very important if you're planning on embedding a scheduler, if you're planning on just taking the direct link and sending it out to somebody, or putting this link maybe in like a MailChimp email or something that's on, Flowdesk or something like that, then you'll want to at least have a lead capture form attached to that particular template. Very important there. So let me jump back here. And then I have some instructions there. You can add an additional form by clicking the advanced tab, additional form. Sending the direct link, so what I just copied and pasted into my browser, that's the equivalent of embedding. It all works the same way because this is for somebody who's outside of the system and you're wanting to bring them into the system. Same rules apply there. The next thing we're going to talk about is if you're planning on sending your scheduler templates inside of Dubsado. So this would be workflows, this would be manual bookings, this would be just sending things out inside of Dubsado. This method is going to be used by anyone that's needing to use the appointment-based workflow triggers. We'll talk about that in a second, so it'll make more sense. If you have to use appointment triggers inside of your workflow, then you'll want to use this method that I'm going to talk about here. This will also be used by anyone that's needing to qualify a lead first before sending them their availability. There's a lot of people that say, I don't want someone to see my availability right away. I want them to fill out a form first so I can see if I want to work with them, if the budget is right, if I think that I will work well with this person. In that case, you're going to do a lead capture form on your website and then have the scheduler go out in your workflow. So let's talk about that method here. So instead of embedding your scheduler on your website because you want to qualify them first, or you want to send out a scheduler template later on in your process, what you would do there instead is you would only embed your lead capture form on your website. You would ask your qualifying questions here first and just make sure the money's right, make sure you want to work with them, that you would be a good fit. And then in the workflow that is attached to the lead capture form, that would then send out the scheduler template there. So let's talk about that and actually sending out a scheduler template in a workflow. So we'll go to the outline here and we'll kind of talk about sending things through a workflow, sending appointment schedulers through a workflow, and also using those appointment triggers. So if we go to templates and workflow, I have just a blank workflow here that I'll kind of talk about the different methods on how to send this through a workflow. So the first thing that is important to know is that anytime you're sending an appointment scheduler in a workflow, you absolutely have to use the action send appointment scheduler. You cannot use any other action if you're planning on sending your availability to a client. There is no other action that you can use. You can't use send email or send form. You have to use send appointment scheduler. The reason why you have to use that is because down here, you have to choose which template you want to send out. And that's the only action we have that will make it available for you to choose which template you actually want to send. So you'll choose send appointment scheduler. That's a non-negotiable. You have to use that action. Then you can choose when you want it to go out. So let's just say we want this to go out after the workflow is started. So they fill out the lead capture form, and I want to review this scheduler before, or I want to review this lead capture form before I send out my availability. So I'll put an approval button on there. That way it's not going to go out to them right away. Then I'll pick the template that I want to send. So now I'm going to grab my coffee chat scheduler template here, and then I can choose the email that goes out with it, the invitation email that I'm planning on sending. We talked about that earlier. So in here, this scheduler link right here is going to give them a button to click on to access the template that I have in this dropdown. So here, I can choose from a custom email if I want to. This is pulling up the default that goes with this template, but I can have whatever email I want here as long as it has that scheduler link in there, because I'm sending this template through Dubsado. So that's where that link will come into play. And let me add that in there. So now what's going to happen is this. They're filling out the lead capture form. I'm going to review that first to qualify them. And then if I want to work with them, I can go into this workflow that's getting added from that lead capture, and I can approve to send them out my availability. So those are the two methods. Either it is going to be you want your availability on the website, you want them to book no matter what right from the start, you would pair that scheduler with a lead capture. The other option is to reverse that. You would do lead capture form first and then have the workflow send out the scheduler template. So hopefully that makes sense. And we'll also talk about appointment triggers as well. So in Dubsado, you can have things happen based around appointments that are being booked. And in the trigger section here, we have after an appointment has been scheduled, before an appointment start time, or after an appointment has ended. So this is really important here. If you're needing to use these, if you're in a business where you say, I have to have those appointment schedule triggers, I have to be able to use these. I want things to go out after their appointment's over, before their start time. I need something to happen once they book an appointment with me. The only time you can use these three triggers is if you're sending out your scheduler inside of the workflow. So I'll explain what that means. Let's say that I want to send out a form to the client a day before their event, or actually a day after their event. So if I have after an appointment has ended, and I say a day after their appointment has ended, the reason why you can only use these triggers with a scheduler that's inside of this workflow is because a drop down is going to pop up here that says, which scheduler do you want to watch for? So what the workflow is asking is, based off the templates that you're sending inside of the workflow, which one do you want me to watch when their appointment is going to be over? Which the only one that I'm sending right now is coffee chat. So now the workflow can look at what time their appointment is over that they booked on that coffee chat, and then I can choose which action I want to do. So let's say I want to send a form and I want to send out a proposal to the client a day after their appointment is over. So I can plug that in there. So with that being said, the only time you can use those triggers is if that scheduler is inside of the workflow. If you're embedding your scheduler on your website, you're not able to use these appointment triggers because that schedule, that template that they're booking on, isn't inside of the workflow. So you have to ask yourself in your business, do I want to just make a quick switch in my process where I'll qualify them first on a lead capture? That way I can use all the appointment triggers that I want to. You kind of have to think about what's most important if you're absolutely needing this or if you're absolutely needing this. So you kind of have to think about the pros and cons of those different methods there, but that's how the appointment triggers work. So let's jump back here. Let's talk through a couple more of these things here. When using an appointment-based workflow trigger, make sure you select the scheduler template and the workflow that you need to watch. That's we talked about that there. So now we're going to talk about manual bookings. And we only have a few more things here, and then we'll wrap up for the day. So manual bookings, the method that I'm going to show you now is for anyone that needs to book an appointment for their clients. And I do apologize, they're doing some yard work outside, part of being at home, but we're just going to fight through this noise. So this will be used by anyone that's needing to book appointments for their clients. So let me show you how to do that here. If I go into a project, and let's say that how you normally do your bookings is that you're on the phone with somebody and then you want to be able to book their appointment for them. You don't really need to send out that availability to the client. So if we go into a project here and we click on any project, and then we'll go into the appointments tab inside of their project. Again, you have to have a project set up in order to do this. Then you can go underneath this tab here that says schedule appointment, and you can choose what's called a use existing scheduler template. If we click on that, it's going to bring up a modal here that says, which template do you want to book an appointment for with this client? So you can click this drop down and choose from the different appointments that you have. So we'll click coffee chat. That's what we've been working on. And we'll click add. So once you've done that, you'll see this template in the pending section now. So now what I'm able to do is I can click open on this template, and now the availability pops up now. So now I can go through and I can book an appointment for my client here. But as you can see, there's a lead capture form that's attached, which I don't want. So if I was doing it this way, I would need to make a different coffee chat template that doesn't have a lead capture form on there, because I don't want to create a new project by filling this out. I would only want to have one that just has availability on there. So if you want to have the ability to book an appointment for your client, and then on top of that, have them get confirmation emails, appointment reminders, that's going to be the method you'll do is go into their project, add the template, and then you'll go through and click on there, book the appointment for them, and it'll work that way. That way they don't have to make an appointment from you sending it to them. So that's how you'll manually send out an appointment scheduler to a client. And in the handout, I have exactly how to do that there. So now, last thing, we're going to wrap up here. We're going to talk about if Dubsado scheduling is right for you. And we'll talk about some of the limitations that we have, some of the things that we're going to be working on, all of that. So you can see if Dubsado scheduling is actually right for you, because right now, with where our scheduler service is at, it might not be right for you yet. And that's totally fine. But we are going to be working on adding more things in so that it can be available for you. So let's talk about it. Dubsado scheduling is a good fit for you if you're a team of one. So the reason why we say you're a team of one is because in Dubsado, you can only have the scheduler templates watch the main brand owner's calendar. There's not a way right now for our templates to be able to watch all of the individual multi-users availability and have those booked separately. Even with our one-on-one calls that we're doing at Dubsado, we use Calendly right now because our scheduler service is not quite there yet where you can have it watch multiple people's calendars. And in our team that we have in the account solutions team, right now we have 3 people. So we don't really use Dubsado scheduling right now, even in-house, because we haven't gotten to that point yet where it can watch multiple people's schedules. So if you're a solopreneur and it's just one person's schedule that you need to watch for, it works perfect for that. The other thing too, it works great if you want to send out email reminders leading up to an appointment. So we already talked about that. That's what this scheduler is really great for too, is for confirmation emails, appointment reminders before they jump on a discovery call, things like that. And then the other thing too as well is it's great for meetings and appointments. So if you are wanting someone to book a wedding date using the scheduler, it's not really great for that at the moment. That's something we're working on. Or if you want someone to book an event. So if you run like an event business where you have a venue that you want someone to book their venue date, it's not quite set up for that yet either. And we'll talk about that here in a second. It's great for if they want to do on-site tours or if you want to do appointments, different things like that. But right now, appointments in Dubsado and booking on a scheduler template is not set up to set a project date or an event date. So those are really great fits for you. If you want to use Dubsado scheduling, that's what it's designed to do. Dubsado scheduling is not a good fit yet. Is not a good fit yet. I put that in there to clarify. The first thing is connecting multiple calendars for multiple locations and multiple appointments for different team members that you have. And we kind of talked about that earlier. It can only watch the main brand owner's availability. So if that's okay with you, then it would be a good reason to use it. We are going to be working on that where it can watch multiple users' availability and be able to separate all of those out, but it's not quite at that point yet. We are working on text messaging reminders. So that's something that we're also working on as well too. There's a whole lot of stuff that ties into that. You have to have certain fees and costs in order for it to be able to do text messaging reminders, but that is something that's coming later, but just not quite yet. And then the other thing too as well is it's not a good fit for letting clients check availability before they reach out to you. So what that means is that once someone books on a scheduler template, that appointment is now locked in on your calendar. So it's not great for kind of a temporary booking where it's just to hold something or anything like that. Once someone books on there, it's locked into the calendar. So that's what it's best for. It's ideal for a client who's ready to book and confirm a date that will go right onto your calendar. So that's going to be the best method for how you can think about using the scheduler. A lot of people have questions about the beta tag that we have on the scheduler. The reason we have that on there is because we want you to know that we're not done working on it yet. It's fully functional and it works just fine for kind of those parameters we talked about today. But we put the beta tag on there to let you guys know that we're not through with it yet. So there's a lot more that's going to be added into the scheduler. We talked about Zoom integration. That's something we're working on. Text messaging, being able to see multiple users' calendars. All of those good things are going to be getting added to the scheduler. So that's what the beta tag is for.